Hi, if anybody's watching, bear with me. I'll be back in 1 second. Okay, hi. My name's Dan Leonard, and I'm the owner, director, whatever you want to call me, of Zapp Laser Studio. And obviously, we are currently closed. Unfortunately, like many small businesses out there at the moment, a lot of big businesses, any businesses, we're closed because of the coronavirus temporarily, and we will reopen again very soon, or as soon as we possibly can, which realistically I think is probably going to be around the end of May. So plenty of time to do lots of research into tattoo removal if that's something you're seriously considering. And this live Q&A is something that I've wanted to do for some time. It's very, very difficult to understand the information that's out there online. It's very biased. There's a lot of people that are talking about the lasers that they use and them being the best. There's a lot of information out there that's very confusing. So hopefully this is an opportunity to give you some of the answers that you need, and that you want to help you make a decision moving forwards. We set up Zapp Laser Studio Hove in 2014. And 2015, get me dates right. And then in November last year, we expanded into Bristol. Very exciting move, and maybe not the best timing considering what's going on at the moment, but we're already establishing ourselves in Bristol very well. Part of that is the reputation that we've carried forward, but part of that is also the laser that we use. So we use a PicoSure laser. PicoSure lasers are considered to be the most effective, fastest, safest lasers in the world for tattoo removal. There's many reasons for that, and hopefully I'll go on to talk about some of that in a little while. Just as an aside, if you are just using this as an opportunity to find out some more information, which I'm at 100% happy with, as I said earlier, then just when you do decide to kind of take that plunge and say, right, this is definitely the right thing that I want to do. I want to get rid of my tattoo, whether it's fading it down for a cover up or whether you want to fully remove it. You need to do some research. Don't just dive into the closest studio that's just around your corner because it's close to where you work, although that might be a really good studio, but do some other research. Don't just base it on price as well. There are many, 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 many different lasers out there. They all do different things. You can buy a laser for £500 off eBay, and it's not really going to do an awful lot except burn and potentially scar you. Then you can go to the other extreme, the higher end of the market, and buy a PicoSure laser for 160, 180,000 pounds. So you do get what you pay for. Just because a clinic or a studio is a little bit more expensive, don't let that put you off. That is normally because their technology is a lot better. So do your research. Look at their reviews. Look at their before and after images. Look at their social media to see what proof you can gather from that. And speak to other people who who are potentially having removal and see what their results are like. As well as there being different types of lasers, there are different types of training qualifications. And this is a very much an unregulated business. So you need to do your homework. Don't just go to the cheapest. Don't just go to the closest that's offering laser tattoo removal. So this is a Q&A. So I'm going to start with a couple of questions that I know that people generally do ask me. And then please, if you've got any questions or you just want to say hi, type a comment in just so that I can see you. We've got 4 or 5 people watching at the moment. I'm not expecting Joe Wicks of 900,000. Be nice, maybe one day in a few years to come. But for now, it's quality, not quantity, as I always say. So one of the questions that people ask me is, how long is it going to take to fully remove a tattoo? It completely depends. So there are many, many variables when it comes to tattoo removal. The application of a tattoo is one of the biggest ones. So how a tattoo is applied, how deep it is, dark it is, dense it is, what inks have been used, and the skill really, and how good the artist was to applying the tattoo. Now, unfortunately, the better the artist, the newer the tattoo, the better the ink, the better applied, the longer it takes to remove. That's because the ink is denser in your skin and it's going to take longer to break down. You need a number of treatments for most tattoos, normally between 4 and 8 treatments with a PicoSure laser. And with a PicoSure laser, that's up to 3 or 4 times more effective than a standard laser. So times that by 3 or 4 if you're going to go to somewhere else because of the technology that's being used. And I'll come on to that a little bit more. So if you are looking at 4 to 8 treatments, and we treat you every 10 weeks, we can safely treat after 6 weeks, but we choose not to. We used to treat every 8 weeks, but we found that actually leaving it a little bit longer means that your body processes that ink more in between each treatment, which means that your body basically digests that ink. Your tattoo fades more, and then it's ready then to be hit again, and you get a better push forward then from your next treatment as well. So we treat you every 10 weeks. So 10 weeks, 6 treatments on average, we're looking at just over a year. So I will normally tell my clients to expect somewhere between a year and 18 months. If it is an incredibly dense tattoo, maybe a tribal that's been colored in 3 or 4 times, and that does happen, or something that's got incredibly thick line work, you could easily be looking at 10 or 12 treatments. So that could take you then up to maybe a couple of years. It's not a fast process, but with the PicoSure laser that we have and that we use, it's much, much faster than any other. So that's roughly along how long it takes to fully remove a tattoo. Another question we get asked is, can you fully remove tattoos? The answer is yes, in most cases. So I say most cases again, because there's so many variables when it comes to tattoo removal. The application is just one. Location is another. So anything that's closer to your hands and feet, your extremities, anything that's further away from the heart generally takes a little bit longer to react and for your body to process. So it's your lymphatic system, which is part of your immune system, that basically deals with the ink. So anything that's closer to your heart with better lymphatic drainage, better circulation, generally tends to treat better than something that's on your hands and feet. Now, also throw into that, if you have poor circulation, if you have cold hands and feet, then it's going to take even longer again. And we really do see that, especially in really tall clients. If they have cold hands and feet, we can get a lot slower, much slower process or progress, sorry. So yes, we can fully remove most tattoos. Double tattoos, again, play a part in being more difficult because it's ink on top of ink. So it depends on the application of the tattoo underneath, how old it is, etc., as to the progress and how quickly that progress can happen. So that's location, application, double tattoos, health, medication, lifestyle. All those things can play a part in how fast or how slow it takes to fully remove a tattoo. And we normally say that we can fully remove around 90%, around 90% of all tattoos. And it's normally a case of how many treatments rather than can or can't fully remove a tattoo. So that's a couple of questions answered. Another question that I do get asked quite a lot, mainly because of the laser that we've got, is what is the difference between a PicoSure or a picosecond laser and a Q-switch laser? So generally your Q-switch lasers are your standard lasers, and there are various different types of those, but let's just take those as a thing. They fire in a billionth of a second, which is a nanosecond. A PicoSure or a picosecond laser, PicoSure is a brand name of a PicoSure, of which there are a few out there. Picosecond lasers fire in a trillionth of a second, so that's 1,000 times faster. What does that actually mean? It means that we hit the ink harder and faster than any other laser. And that allows us to hit that ink harder and break it into much smaller pieces. So to give you an example, it would break it down into sand-like particles rather than pebble-like particles. And that allows the body to come along, gobble up those bits of ink, those tiny bits of ink, and filter it out much more effectively through your body. So if it's much larger particles, they don't break down as well, and you have to hit them more times to break them into smaller pieces for your body to then be able to absorb them, digest them, and get rid of them easier. So it basically means much fewer treatments over a shorter period of time, and that means less expense, even though maybe clinics with PicoSures and picosecond lasers will charge a little bit more. It's much quicker, and also it's much safer. So the reason I say that is that there are studies that have been done that recognize the fact that the energy from a laser needs to be released in a picosecond, for tattoo removal to make it safe. So if it's delivered in a picosecond, it's released in a picosecond, there's much lower risk of damaging the cells that contain the ink and damage to your skin. So therefore, if it's a laser that is much slower and it delivers the energy much slower, the energy stays in the skin for a longer period of time, it's released from the skin much slower, then there's a much higher risk of potentially causing skin damage and damage those cells that contain the ink. There's another batch of lasers that are even older than most Q switch lasers, and they use a lot of heat. They're thermal based lasers. Stay away from those. The old technology that will burn you, will scar you, they really won't remove much ink, and they'll do an awful lot of skin damage. I know clients that have used them. I've seen scarring from the treatments of those types of lasers. The scarring is very bad, and what happens is the ink gets caught up in that scarring, and it becomes almost impossible, or pretty much it is impossible, to remove the ink. And those clients have reported to me that energy must have been staying in the skin for days because they've felt it burning for days. The after effects from really good Q switch lasers and picosecond lasers are much lower. The healing time is much easier, and the progress is much better and much faster as well. So that gives you a little bit of information around that. Another question that we get is, can we treat all colors? The answer for us is absolutely yes, we can. Different colors are attracted to different wavelengths in lasers, or that's the way it works generally. So there's lots of different colors in the spectrum of light, and different colors will be attracted to those. So I know that some lasers are only attracted to black ink, or some really struggle with blues and greens or reds. We have two different wavelengths on our laser, and we can interchange between the two. And between those two, 755 and a 532, we can effectively treat all the different colors in the spectrum of light. So that means that we can treat all those difficult colors, reds, blues, yellows, greens. It's not a problem for us because of those two different wavelengths that we have. And there is a myth out there online that says red is the hardest color to remove. It's not. It depends what wavelengths you have as to what colors you can treat. And historically, a lot of lasers didn't have wavelengths that could react with red ink. And therefore, that's why you've got that myth out there that basically says that that is the hardest color, to treat. Trying to think of some other questions because no one's put any up yet. So if anybody out there is watching and they've got any questions that they really would like to know, then the answer to them, please do put them up. I'm trying to think of barriers and things that would maybe make people not make that decision, or put fear into people from making that decision to moving forward. The main barriers really are cost. It is a bit more expensive than getting a tattoo, but it depends what you're trying to achieve. If you're fading a tattoo down to cover it, then normally we say between 2 and 4 treatments, and you should be absolutely fine with that. 4 to 8 treatments for full removal, obviously slightly more more expensive way of doing it. But with us, you can pay as you go. We offer payment plans, discounted payment plans, and you can buy courses of treatment up front, which get you quite big discounts and therefore makes it more cost effective. The other thing is we treat you every 10 weeks. So if you pay as you go, you've got over 2 months in between each treatment to save up. So, we always try and work with our clients as much as possible, even though we've got 2 studios now and we hope to grow more. We class ourselves as a small business, and we create every treatment plan in mind with that individual. So we can always discuss everything around cost, et cetera, and make it cost effective for you, affordable for you, and structure it in a way that actually it's accessible for you. The other sticking point for a lot of people is pain. So there's no getting around it. It does hurt, but people look online, they listen to people, and it's scaremongering. It hurts, yeah, it hurts. Hot elastic band being pinged against your skin, mini electric shocks, hot fat spitting against your skin, but it's incredibly quick. So for a tattoo around that big, if we're treating it, say that is blacked out block ink, for us to treat that, we're looking at probably about 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes, maybe. We fire at 10 shots per second, so it is incredibly quick. We also have a cryo machine. So cryo machine blows very, very cold air down to minus 20 degrees. So we use that at the same time as using the laser to treat you. It blows incredibly cold air onto your skin. It tries to minimize the after effects as well. It takes the edge off. It's a nice distraction. And our clients say it really, really, really helps. We have probably treated over 2,000 clients now, easily, I would say. And I would say, from my knowledge, I think we've had 2 clients that have had a test patch and not come back because they found it painful. So I don't know what that is percentage wise, but it's incredibly small. And we do have some clients that do find it painful, but they get through it. We also have some clients that use numbing cream. Now, we don't generally recommend numbing cream because it can change the texture of the skin, and therefore it can act as a barrier to the laser, in between the laser and the ink. That being said, we do have some clients that use it because they find it painful. And when I'm only talking about half a dozen clients here, again, out of over 2,000 clients, so it can't be that bad. But for those clients, those, they probably have a slightly lower pain threshold, or it's a really big tattoo, or it's in a location that's more sensitive. They use numbing cream and they supply it themselves. They put it on about an hour before they come in. And we have maybe noticed slightly slower progress in those clients, but not so much so that it's going to stop them coming. So yes, it will be a little bit slower, but if it's the only way you can have it, then that's fine. But as I say, the majority of our clients can get through it. And it is a bit like when you get a tattoo. There are certain locations that hurt more, and there are certain locations that hurt less. And everybody's pain threshold is different. So I have some clients that have got tiny little tattoos that find it painful, but they grit their teeth and get through it. I've got other clients we treat, full sleeves, full back pieces, or other areas that are very sensitive on the body, and they just get through it because they can. And some people are very good at escaping to different things in their mind. I don't know where they escape to, maybe a beach sipping on a nice cocktail or something, or just kind of go into a Zen-like kind of state and just focus on something else completely. It's generally those clients that really focus on the pain, really tense up. They're the ones that actually find it worse than those that kind of relax and kind of, just escape. So pain isn't an issue. It really, really isn't a problem. And the way to find out is to come in, have a test patch. So we would always do a test patch on a very small area of your tattoo before we carry out a full treatment. And we would normally wait at least 24 hours before carrying out that first full treatment. And it gives you an insight into how it's going to feel. It lets us know roughly how the tattoo is going to react. And it makes sure that there's no adverse reaction to obviously treating a larger area. But as well as that, it gives you a good idea of how it feels. And again, most clients, they build it up in their head. It's going to hurt. It's going to hurt. It's what they're most nervous about. And then they have the test patch and they go, oh, is that it? And that is the realization. So don't let pain or the potential, scaremongering around pain put you off. Dan Jordan, nice to see you. Dan's asking me a question. Hi, Dan. If I'm thinking of getting a tattoo removed soon, what precautions should I be making now, i.e. staying out of the sun? Very good question. Well, you should be indoors anyway. You shouldn't be outside, maybe for a very short period during the day. But great question, especially with the summer coming, especially with the weather we've been having. This is amazing. And I think you would actually get suntan if you sat and sunbathed in this today. So we can only treat you if you are your natural skin color with no suntan and no suntanning products or fake tan in the area to be treated. Why is that? Because it acts as a barrier, but it also massively increases the risk of removing the pigment from your skin permanently. So if you've got a suntan in the area, it needs to fade before we can treat you. Or if you are going out and you are going in the sun, or you're going on holiday, again, fairly low chance at the moment you'll be going on holiday, then you need to cover that area. And you can try and cover it with sun cream, but to be honest with you, it's hit and miss. Most sun creams are chemical based, which means they take at least 45 minutes, an hour probably is more likely to start with working, maybe even longer. So I always used to go to a swimming on holiday and sit by the pool, put my sun cream on. Hour later, I'm thinking, why am I burning? I'm wearing factor 30. It's because it's taken an hour to work. So you need to apply sun cream on for at least an hour before you go out. Once you're then out, you need to reapply it every hour, probably every half an hour. Who's going to do that? Who's going to remember to do that? Especially if you're on holiday, having a few beers, or you're in the sun with friends or with children, you're running around after them. Your focus is not your tattoo. All of a sudden, you've got a suntan. We have to delay treatment. Your best way, if you can, is to cover it. Whether that be with a t-shirt, whether that be with a big waterproof plaster. It depends on the size of your tattoo, of course, whether it is even manageable to cover. You can even buy things on Amazon now, neoprene, SPF factored sleeves that you pull on. They're mainly for if you've had a tattoo and then you want to protect it from the sun. But equally, this would work really well. It's really good when people come in, they've been on holiday, they've got a massive white patch exactly over their tattoo where they've been wearing a plaster every day, and then the rest of them is tanned. Obviously not great for them and their tanning, but great. It means that we can continue treatment. So what if you do get a suntan? Well, if you do get a suntan, we need to wait till you're back to your natural color before we can treat you. What does that mean? Well, everyone is different. We would normally say between 4 and 6 weeks for somebody that's probably a skin type 2, a little bit pasty like me. Tan's okay, has to work at it, but actually tan fades quite quickly. If you're more of a skin type 3, you're more Mediterranean skin type, you're going to have to wait quite a lot longer. Some people will hold on to their tans for 3-6 months. Some people never lose their tan. If that's the case, we would always say probably a minimum of 3 months before we start treating you. The last thing we want to do is remove your tattoo ink and remove your pigment from your skin as well permanently. Now, sometimes that returns, but there is a high risk, especially with darker skin type, especially with suntan, that won't return. And if it doesn't return within a year, then it's not going to. So we don't want to leave you with a ghost outline of where your tattoo was. Some people would prefer that, to take that risk if they hate their tattoo that much. But from our perspective, we want that tattoo to be gone and looking like it's never actually been there. So don't get a suntan, cover it if you can. If you do get a tan, we need to pause treatment to back to your natural color. It is quite amazing how many people over the course of a summer do come in, having got back from a holiday, knowing this information, turn up with a suntan and go, oh, why can't you treat me today? Most people, fortunately, understand when we say, no, I'm sorry, we can't. But you do get some people who are a bit kind of like, well, why? I want my tattoo gone. You need to be at your natural color. And this is why it's also a risk with darker skin types. So if you are a darker skin type, then we would need to treat with more caution. We would definitely need to make sure you're back to your natural color. And then we would have to start on slightly lower settings to minimize the risk of removing pigment from your skin whilst removing the pigment from your tattoo. So because of those lower settings that we would start on, that does mean that you would need more treatments in the grand scheme of things. There is still always a risk because you do go to slightly higher settings and everybody is different. I've treated, really dark skin types on slightly higher settings and their pigment has been absolutely fine. I've treated skin type 3, your more Mediterranean type skin, on lower settings, and we built up slowly and not even got that high and their pigment started to change. But because we take it one step at a time and because our adjustments are so small and we're test patching all the time, we have time to make those decisions with our client to say, okay, look, this is the situation. This is reality now. There's a little bit of pigment change. We can either do two things. We can either carry on or stop, or actually we can just give it some time. Let's give it 3 months, come back in 3 months. Let's see how that pigmentation has changed. Some people just want to carry on because they really, really hate their tattoo and it is really affecting their confidence and their self-esteem that much. Other people are completely understanding of that. And actually, this is not a fast process. This takes time. And if you have to have patience. So most people then are okay to kind of just take that little break and see what happens. This does take time. It isn't a fast process, but with the PicoSure, it is the fastest process. So that's something that you do need to bear in mind, is that, if you're going to, and I'm not saying that this is the case with everybody, but some lasers that maybe are not specific tattoo removal studios or aesthetic studios, they may have technology that isn't as good, that their training may not be as good. I'd be asking for insurance documents as well. You're talking about the endpoint being really unknown and unsure as to whether that tattoo can be fully removed with no skin damage, no pigmentation change, and actually even if it can be removed and how many treatments. I know of people that have come to me and they've had 20 treatments and they've got a tattoo that is not even half removed and they've got a lot of scarring. But they kept going because it was cheap, it was local, and they had the promise that have more treatments, it will work, and here's them another discount. And it's hard. It's really hard to then make that change somewhere else. And sometimes at that point, there's actually not a lot we can do. If the skin is really damaged and the ink is really compacted, even with the most advanced technology in the world, it's difficult sometimes to then make progress. And we're always 100% clear with our clients that is the case. Sometimes you can see the scarring. Sometimes that scarring is underneath the skin and you can't really see that scarring, but you can tell, especially if they've had a huge amount of treatments elsewhere with a laser that isn't very powerful. The ink is almost definitely compacted. And there's probably some scarring underneath, even if you can't actually see the scarring visibly as well. So going back to my point earlier, please do your research. Please take your time to do your research. And if you're not sure, and look, we're not close to everybody. We're not local to everybody. But if you live, I don't know, Edinburgh, and you've been looking at us online, you've been looking at our studio, get in touch. Ask me, look, I found this studio. This is what they do. Is it somewhere reputable? I'll do a little bit of research for you and I'll help guide you along. Or what I'll do is I'll point you to the closest studio that has a PicoSure laser, because they will almost definitely be credible. They will almost definitely have great results, great, client aftercare, great customer service, because they're using the most advanced, most expensive, best lasers in the world to produce the best outcome for that client. Okay, so sorry, take a deep breath. Sometimes I get a bit carried away and I don't actually take a pause. Let me just grab a quick drink of water. If anybody else has got any questions there, that would be great. Otherwise, what I might do is just start to wrap this one up just for today, just because this is my first effort. And actually, I'm just really chuffed that it's even working, to be honest with you. I had a mad panic about half an hour before where I was trying to get the technology set up, and I'm not the best with technology, but I managed to get there with the calming influence of my wife. Another question just come in, a really good question actually, because I've had a few of these recently. So where people have got tattoos that literally just before the lockdown, I'm assuming not during the lockdown, because that wouldn't quite sit right. And it's people that have got tattoos and they almost instantly don't like them. So the question is, I've only had my tattoo for a month. Could we start straight away? Unfortunately not. We need to wait a minimum of 3 months from the application of your tattoo to start the removal process. We need to make sure it's healed. We need to make sure that ink has settled into those cells. Even if it looks like it's healed on the outside, it's probably still healing on the inside. There's a lot of trauma. If you think someone's been pounding needles into your arm and it's taken probably a week, 2 weeks to fully heal, you look like it's healed. It's not. It takes time to settle down. So we would need to wait a minimum of 3 months from the application of your tattoo to start the removal process. But it doesn't mean you can't get in touch. You can still send us a picture of it and I can get back to you with loads of information around the potential treatment of your tattoo. And you've then got the rest of that time to kind of either come to terms with it, do some more research, ask some more questions, come in for a consultation. We can't test patch you until we get to that 3 months, but we can still certainly see you, although again, not at the moment. So yeah, you've got time then to figure things out. And there's many reasons why people suddenly don't like their tattoos. Unfortunately, sometimes the artists get carried away and they end up doing what they want rather than what the client wants. We find that a lot of clients feel, and this isn't always the fault of the artist, but they feel pressured because they've spent a lot of time planning and the artist has drawn up a design. They go in on the day, the big day that they've been waiting for ages, and then they see the design and it's not quite right. But actually they think, well, I kind of got to go for it now. I don't want to lose my money and I don't want to upset the artist. So let's just do it. And then it kind of spirals from there. So sometimes it's it doesn't actually work out as the person wanted. The design isn't quite right. The location maybe isn't quite right. The angle of it, or actually they thought they wanted a tattoo, but actually in reality they see it on them and they don't now. So there's many reasons, obviously many reasons why people get tattoos removed anyway, but it's maybe I'll come on to that in a moment, but it's there are many reasons, and it's very personal to the client. And the thing is, I always kind of considered that when you got a tattoo, going back 10, 20, when I was growing up, tattoo was for life. Tattoo was for life. You got a tattoo, you're into tattoos, and certain genre of people were into tattoos and they would get it for life. That was it. And then obviously as time moves on, technology moves on, people have more choice. Also, tattoos have gone huge over the last sort of 10 years. And obviously they've become a lot more fashionable. So fashion tattoos, fashions change, trends change. So what was in fashion 10 years ago, 5 years ago, isn't in fashion now. I should have been covered in tribal tattoo. I saw that film From Dusk Till Dawn, George Clooney, and I was thinking, my God, he's so cool. Although I was teaching at the time, and I don't think a massive tribal up my neck and down my arm was probably the best option, which is why I probably didn't go for it. But stars, barcodes. Me and my mate were going to get barcodes on the back of our necks at one point. That would have been a really good move. So basically, I should be standing here covered in fashion tattoos, and I would actually probably have hated them all now. Fortunately, the standard of tattooing is gone through the roof in recent years, and it's an art form more than ever now. So the art that people get on their bodies is amazing, but it's still not always what people want. So yeah, there are many reasons why people suddenly don't like the tattoos. They might have got tattoos 20 years ago that actually they still love tattoos, but they want them faded down now because they've got a new piece on their other arm that is amazing, much better standard, much better quality, and it's maybe a different style even. Maybe it's a portrait, and then this over here is a big bit of old tribal. So we fade that down so that they can then cover it. Ex's names, football badges, there's so many reasons. Even tattoos that really mean something to people. Maybe it's a portrait or a name or something of a loved one who's passed away. You would think that actually that would stay forever, but people change, situations change, people can move on. They don't have to forget, but they can still move on. And sometimes they don't want to look in a mirror and be reminded of that all the time. So sometimes they come in, they get it removed, they have it put somewhere else, or sometimes they just get it removed and get it covered, or it allows for people to change their mind. And there are some diehard tattoo artists out there who say, well, that's not what tattooing's all about. But I think now that more than ever, it is about choice, and that's what we offer. Okay, brilliant. Thank you so much. It's not quite Joe Wick's numbers, but I don't care about that. I hope this has been really useful to you. It's been really useful to me, actually, because I've been doing some live videos and stuff with clients, people that have been making inquiries, etc. But I haven't actually spoke about tattoo removal for nearly 3 weeks in this kind of context. And it's really good, because I love it. I love tattoo removal. And although I own Zapp Laser Studio, I work in both Bristol and Hove as well. I'm hands-on. I'm there. I'm client-facing. I create those relationships. I create the treatment plans, and I treat my clients. And that creating the relationships with my clients is one of the most important things for me, because it allows me to understand what they're going through. And the change that I can see, even after a first treatment, for most of my clients is huge. Some of my clients have been thinking about this for 10, 20, 30 years. Some of my clients have been walking around with long sleeve tops on through the winters, or leggings on instead of bikinis on the beach for the last 10 years, because they hate their tattoos. Not only do they hate them, but they hate the attention that they get from them. I'm not going to mention names, but I have a client that's covered on his arms, and they're tattoos that were relevant to him 30, 40 years ago. He's changed massively. And now he's a very well-to-do businessman, and he's got tattoos that are definitely not applicable to that all over his arms. Well, he hasn't anymore because they're pretty much gone. But he was incredibly self-conscious of that, both in business but with his family as well. So things do change, people do change. And that's what I love most about this. is the confidence that we can help people get back. It's not really something I really thought about initially when we first got into this business, but it's a massive part of what we do, and it's part of what I really love to do. So thank you very much. I hope this has been useful. I'm going to cut off now, but if you've got any questions at all, please feel free to email them to info@zapplaserstudio.co.uk. I'm assuming you can probably comment on this afterwards. I'll save it and I'll put it on YouTube. Please equally come and like, not like, that's Facebook. Subscribe. As you can see, I'm still learning it with this. Please subscribe to our Facebook. No, please subscribe to our YouTube. Please subscribe to our YouTube, like our Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube, and then that will let you know more information about the videos that we're putting out. We're going to be putting more videos on all of our social media, but with YouTube especially. We're going to be doing a live Q&A every Thursday at 1 o'clock, as long as my technology works, which I'm pleased it does now. So please tune in again, and any questions in the meantime, get in touch. If you've got a tattoo and you are just thinking about it at this stage, you're really not sure what to do, you don't know what your options are, you don't even know if it can be removed, take a photo, email me, info@zapplaserstudio.co.uk. You've got nothing to lose. I will get back to you with all the information you need. No strings attached. Just for your sake, for your information, and then you can make an informed decision whether actually, no, it's not something you want to do, or yeah, this is something that I want to maybe look at again once Zapp open or once somebody else opens. It gives you information, and knowledge is power. So it allows you to make the decision, that next step of that decision. You know what I mean? Anyway, thank you very much, and stay home, stay safe, and help the NHS. Thank you very much.